So this week we're going to study compounds. We're going to talk about substances that are made up of more than one element. There's only 118 elements that all of humanity knows about, but there's over 50 million unique substances. We accomplish that by mixing atoms of different flavors together, binding them into small packets called molecules, or building them into huge arrays called ionic compounds. The first step to understanding compounds is understanding formulas, and you're going to study formulas, both molecular formulas, which apply only to molecular compounds, and empirical formulas, which apply to both ionic and molecular compounds. As you start to explore formulas and how to represent different substances by writing the blueprint of that molecule or writing the empirical formula that describes that substance, it's also going to be important to name them. When you're in a laboratory and someone says, hand me a flask of ferric chloride, if you hand them ferrous chloride, well, bad things can happen. It's important to know the names and the formulas and be able to go back and forth between these two unique characterizations of every compound. You're going to learn how to name all of the elements and know their formulas, and for most of them it's just the symbol of the element, but there are 7 diatomic elements and there are 2 polyatomic ones you should know the formulas for also. After you explore the formulas and how to map them for elements, you're going to expand that to describe how to describe ions, charged atoms, or charged particles. And then you're going to find out how to describe binary compounds by combining 2 sets of ions to form ionic compounds, and to understand the formula and the naming of those as well. The next step after that is understanding molecular compounds. That's okay. It uses the same trick as you would explore with ionic compounds. There's just a little bit of a twist on the end. Also, ions can be more than just a charged atom. They can be a charged cluster of atoms. You can have polyatomic ions. And you're going to learn how to name the polyatomic ions for all of the nonmetals, the elements in the upper right-hand corner of the periodic table. There's a neat pattern though. The charge on that polyatomic ion is almost always the same as the charge you would expect on the monatomic ion that's at its center, with the exception of carbon and nitrogen. And naming these, well, it's just 8 or 8, and the big one is always 8. You just have to figure out whether this is a 2-3, 2 and 3 oxygens around that ion, or if it's a 3-4. The next step after exploring polyatomic ions and the compounds that make them up is understanding the naming of acids, which is really just the same thing, except the cation is H+ instead of some other element. But the naming of acids is a little bit different, so pay careful attention to those rules. The last thing is formula mass. As we start, you already understand what atomic mass is and how to weigh atoms, how to count atoms by weighing them. Well, now you're going to learn that trick for molecules. There's an old story about a guy that someone comes into the bar and says, hey, I can weigh your car on a bathroom scale. The guy says, no, you can't. I know exactly how much my car weighs. He offers up his keys. The guy says, I'll be right back. He comes back and quotes him the exact weight of his car. Stunned, the guy buys him a drink and says, hey, but how did you do that? How did you weigh my car on a bathroom scale? The gentleman puts a blowtorch on the bar and picks up his drink. He says, it's very easy. You just do it one piece at a time. That's the same trick with molecules. The way you find the molecular mass of methane is by weighing all 4 of the hydrogens and add that to the weight of the carbon, and you can have the weight of the whole molecule. Anyway, we're going to be using molecular mass all semester long, so this is something that you want to get down. Explore how this plays into the stoichiometry we've already explored. That's a lot for this week, but it's going to be a fun ride. There's some interesting stories in this chapter. I hope that helps. Again, I've got office hours. Please come in, or drop by the forums, the discussion groups online, or just shoot me an email if you need. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.